The Kung Fu Panda series is one of the most successful animated movie franchises ever, and for good reason. It follows a young panda who first discovers his potential and then overcomes his fear. It is carried by its animation, voice acting, and humor, but perhaps most of all, Kung Fu Panda had the privilege of a meticulously crafted and planned score, especially something fascinating in music called leitmotifs. The films use leitmotifs in conjunction with several story beats in Poe's journey. Composers John Powell and Hans Zimmer changed their performance to change how the leitmotif was used to match its purpose in the story. Their usage of the biggest leitmotifs I have dubbed Heroism, Hope, and Inner Peace are carefully placed throughout Poe's journey, some of them in all the films, showing how he overcame his challenges and becomes the hero of the story we love. Kung Fu Panda is an example of how much more impactful its writing can be with the power of leitmotifs.
This is really good.
No, come on. You should try my dad's secret ingredient soup. He actually knows the secret ingredient.
What are you talking about? Oh, this is amazing.
Wow, you're really good.
To understand the importance of Zimmer and Powell's work, we need to first understand what leitmotifs are. Pioneered by German composer Wilhelm Richard Wagner, leitmotifs are small pieces of music that are associated with an idea or concept. One of the biggest modern examples of someone that uses leitmotifs extremely well is John Williams, who utilized what we call the force theme. However, it's important to note that leitmotifs are distinctly different from themes. While the force theme might be the whole section or the whole song, leitmotifs are just this. And when you watch Star Wars, you'll notice that it's not just used in the Force's theme song. It plays every time someone uses the Force, thus associating this sequence of notes with the idea and the action. It's why in this moment, even though Rey never indicates it,
Rey, I know you.
People keep telling me they know me. I'm afraid no one does.
some people in the theater will subconsciously and automatically think that she might be lying and actually believes that Kylo Ren is the only one who believes her due to his leitmotif playing. Because we've heard Kylo Ren's leitmotif every time something with him is happening on screen, viewers associate the two. It is now more than just music, it represents his character, his ideas, and his motivations. The other strength of leitmotifs is performance. Composers generally affect the key, tempo, and instrumentation to change our perception of the leitmotif. In the Kung Fu Panda series, although there are other characters, the movies are about the growth of Po the Panda, how he reaches the potential of Kung Fu that he never knew he was capable of in the first movie, and coming to peace in the second. So to study how Powell and Zimmer used leitmotifs, it's most fitting that we talk about the Dragon Warrior himself, Po the Panda. When we first meet Po, we're seeing a dream sequence of him where he is an unstoppable Kung Fu master. It tells us that he idolizes Kung Fu and wishes to become a Kung Fu hero like the Furious Five. This is also the moment where the Powell-Zimmer duo introduce us to the first leitmotif of Po's journey.
Enough talk. Let's fight.
This introduces us to what a leitmotif means. It's played right when Po displays heroism, so the audience begins to associate this little jingle with Po reaching his potential. Because it's a dream sequence, it also establishes Po's motivations and goals in association with this leitmotif. Hero is the most rock-like song in the soundtrack, supported by a rock beat and a melody that's played with loud, bombastic brass. It goes at around 100 BPM, generally a more steady and faster beat than most of the soundtrack. It retains the core leitmotif, while the performance describes this moment for Po where he feels like a badass. This is one of the many times Powell and Zimmer changed performance to match its significance. But, unfortunately, Po is not the Kung Fu master he dreams he is yet. That is, until Oogway chose him to be the Dragon Warrior.
The universe has brought us the Dragon Warrior.
What?
What? What? What?
Through the first and second act of the film, Po is riddled with doubt. Both him and Shifu, at some points, believe that Oogway was wrong for choosing Po. It seems everyone is unsure whether Po can be Oogway's successor except for the old master himself. When Po sits defeated, Oogway offers him advice, essentially telling him that,
But today is a gift. That is why it is called a present.
in this scene, the leitmotif for what I have called hope is played very softly.
Quit, don't quit. Noodles, don't noodles. You are too concerned with what was and what will be. Is a saying.
In this scene, it is played slowly and quietly, because it isn't a moment of glory or breakthrough for Po. It's an old master passing on wisdom, so Po can bring peace to the valley as he once did. The leitmotif is cut off short. Oogway offers the opportunity for Po to bring hope and finish the sequence himself. This is semi-continued sometime later in the scene where Oogway passes away into the spirit realm. Previous to this, Oogway gave Shifu an important lesson, that people can become great if you believe in them and them themselves. Here, the same hope leitmotif is optimistic, contrasting the emotion that Shifu is feeling in the scene. The performance doesn't have much percussion, just flowing wind and classic Chinese instruments to back it up because it's meant to be a serene piece. Oogway is confident that he has prepared his pupils for what's to come, and this is why Oogway's ascension is an optimistic piece, hopeful for the future.
My time has come. You must continue your journey without me.
What are you... What? Master!
In these two moments, the hope leitmotif is associated with Oogway, but as Po continues to better himself in the mind and body, he too completes the leitmotif that Oogway left for him. First, when he completes his training with Shifu, they bow to one another, and a soft-stringed instrument plays the leitmotif. Po is focused and achieved what Oogway knew was possible.
Master.
And finally, when he defeats Tai Lung, and the village rejoices. The leitmotif isn't played abrasively, but with confidence and a choir behind it, giving it this holy feeling that signifies the rite of passage that Po has passed.
The Dragon Warrior.
And this is mirrored with the five acknowledging him as a master. Here, Po has completed a big part of his journey.
Master?
Hope is an incredibly important motif in the films, especially the first. Zimmer and Powell's knowledge of how to use leitmotifs is great enough that they can wildly vary how they perform them while still retaining their identities. When Hope plays after Po defeats Tai Lung, we are reminded of his training, what he overcame, and the teachers who helped pave the way, moments in which the leitmotif played as well. And it makes the end of his journey that much more impactful. In Kung Fu Panda 2, Po is hit with the revelation that his goose dad isn't his biological father. Throughout the film, he becomes increasingly tormented by wanting to know what happened, hunting the truth and afraid of what he might learn. It distracts him and leads to some of his defeats.
Po!
But before this, we are introduced to a new teaching. Having become a master of combat, Po has yet to learn to deal with his past. Thus, Kung Fu Panda 2 is about Po's journey to achieve inner peace, because being at peace with himself allowed him to defeat Lord Shen, a villain who did let the past define and ruin him. As Shifu explains what it means to achieve inner peace, we are introduced to the leitmotif of inner peace. It's important to note that this is not the first time it is used. We hear this when Shifu grabs the dragon scroll. So this leitmotif is technically about Po overcoming and learning in general. The dragon scroll represents Po learning how to believe in his own power. In the inner peace scene with Shifu, he has mastered inner peace. It is an awe-inspiring moment for Po and a representation of the end goal he must reach for the film. For the next while, Po struggles with the past. He is unable to defeat the bandits that robbed the musician's village due to being stunned by flashbacks of his mother, and he is unable to capture Shen once more because of his past. Knowing of his personal grudge against Shen, the five advise him to stay in Gongmen jail and not to interfere with their plans because he could get them killed. Unable to be at peace with his past, he storms Shen's factory. His friends are captured and he is nearly killed. As he looks up to the rain, Po realizes that the past will continue to torment his mind unless he gains inner peace with it. Just like the first film, Zimmer and Powell play a response to the call earlier in the film, when Shifu displays his mastery of inner peace. Livened by his new growth, Po faces down Shen's army once more. The hero theme comes back from Po's dream sequence, but unlike the first time, it is soaring, prideful, and orchestral. It's no longer just about being a beloved celebrity kung fu master or knowing how to punch and kick. Po is the true kung fu master, defending China from Shen, and the leitmotif shows that. After they get too close, Shen fires a cannon right into his own men, leveling all the Kung Fu masters except for Po. Realizing that just mastery of Kung Fu isn't enough to defeat Shen, he has to use what he learned. Standing on the mound, staring down weapons that could defeat Kung Fu, Po begins. This performance isn't much different from the last, and for good reason. Shifu mastered inner peace, and to play Po's inner peace the same way subconsciously lets the audience know that he has also reached the same stage. This is the crux of Po's character development. He overcame his physical barriers and mastered his mind. This climax represents everything Po has learned. Po defeats more and more wolves, Shen desperately shoots one final cannonball. Po has reached the potential that Oogway and he always hoped he would. As he spins with the ball, Zimmer and Powell deliver an incredible, majestic score of the hero leitmotif, representing how Po has become the true dragon warrior he literally dreamed he was.
Wounds heal.
Oh
what do scars do?
After a quick final duel, Poe defeats Shen, telling him,
You should, Shen. You gotta let go of that stuff from the past, because it just doesn't matter.
as the villagers rejoice, the Hope leitmotif is played once more. This time, it's happy, without hard-hitting percussion. Accompanied by a chorus of strings and melodic playing, this rendition shows the happiness that our dragon warrior has brought to China.
At such a young age. Well, I had a pretty good teacher.
Kung Fu Panda is such an endearing and heartwarming story because of its main character. All of his cheekiness and goofy nature aside, Poe is a story of a person who learned to believe himself and be at peace with himself, acknowledging that to dwell on what was and what might be is a disservice to what is in the present. This is supported by the incredible soundtrack by John Powell and Hans Zimmer, who plays leitmotifs throughout Poe's journey to remind us of all the other important moments in his journey, and uses the performance to tell his extraordinarily inspiring story through music.
Your story may not have such a happy beginning, but that doesn't make you who you are. It is the rest of your story, who you choose to be.